talk about in this live event. I came across a really good website that had this PDF and was really listing a lot of things that even I didn't realize and know about people that the Clintons have known and so forth. And, at some point, the accumulation of so many people that are acquaintances or have worked for the Clintons or were a part of their agenda at some point and are now deceased, if you will, in some way, shape, or form. And a lot of times awkwardly in when they're young is really suspicious to me. I mean, you can say one or two, maybe three people, but as you'll see, and I'll give this link to you in the description later, so you can take a look at it for yourself in detail. This is basically a PDF of all the information about this article, which is great. So again, thank you everyone for coming. I will definitely like to see a lot of your comments and try to talk about some of those comments. Maybe if I have the answer, if I don't, I'll obviously let you know, but I'm on a different computer today, so we'll see how it goes. My other computer's been giving me a little trouble here lately, but anyway, thank you for coming. I can see JoJo Dancers here. Thanks, JoJo, for coming. Southern Pride. I see all you guys commenting consistently every day. Thank you for that. Christina Ashby, thank you for coming. Sondi 907, thank you for coming. Catherine Smith, thank you for coming. Deplorable Jasper Dog, thanks for coming. Romeo Whiskey, thank you for coming. Number one, Matt Man, thank you for coming. Yeah, so I'll wait till some more people come on to make some of their comments, and I'll just kind of go with this a little bit. As you can see, the PDF here, it states about information about the so-called body count, and it's a compiling of a list. I think they compiled it over the past 25 plus years. And as a person who's from the South, I kind of knew this years ago. I can't tell you exactly how many years, but it's been a few years ago, back in the late 90s, obviously, when the Clintons were in power, if you will, in the Oval Office. Obviously, they came into power, what was it, 1992 and 1993 of January, I believe, Bill Clinton took over in the White House. So it's always funny. Hindsight, obviously, is 2020, right? We can look back and see some things and kind of put things together ourselves. But I wanted to do this also to pretty much honor those people who have come and gone. Obviously, in this PDF, it shows you that, possibly were, taken out, by whatever entity you might want to say, or maybe by an accident, or, there's a lot of suicides in here, ladies and gentlemen. And so it's hard to believe, statistics really say that, it's very hard to believe that, the Clintons know as many people as they do, and a lot of those people have committed suicide. Well, I think I know of maybe two or three people in my entire lifetime that I actually had spoken to that were colleagues or students of mine, or, that kind of thing, that actually committed suicide. Other than that, it's just hard to believe. So as you can see, Don Adams, long before Whitewater's land flips, I guess this was with the Clintons. I believe it looks like in Arkansas, many of the same players had been involved in a similar land swindle in Branson, obviously Arkansas. Don Adams was a lawyer in Arkansas who got involved trying to help people who were being swindled out of their life savings. Wow. Obviously two articles coming up here. Lawyer Adams missing. Wow, that's easy. 1997. So we know the Clintons were in power in the White House. So if anything goes on in Arkansas that's against their will. Obviously it's hard to read, but I'll definitely have a link to this PDF, ladies and gentlemen. And then there's City of Springfield Ozarks News, lawyer found dead. It's hard to read, I understand that, but there's so many here that, give a little prayer to Don and his family. Now we come to one of the main ones. I remember this guy, former United Nations General Assembly President, John Ash. If you remember, I think John Ash was initially, it says here, reported as having died from a heart attack. John's throat was obviously had been crushed because he was supposedly lifting weights. I remember going through this one and going, really? Dropping a barbell on himself or his throat. Obviously, if you're doing a bench press and somebody comes over the top of you or a couple people, they could pretty much, hurt you that way. And the bar crushes your larynx, as it says here. That's really just hard to believe. And he was the former president of the United Nations Assembly. Get that, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, come on. And it also goes to state that Ash was about to begin trial for a bribery charge involved in Chinese businessman Neg Lap Sin, who had been implicated but not charged in the 1996 China Gate scandal for funneling illegal donations to Bill Clinton's re-election campaign through Arkansas restaurant owner Charlie Try. Ash was supposed to testify about Hillary's links to this Chinese guy. Later the same day, he died. Wow, that's convenient, isn't it, ladies and gentlemen? I mean, come on. At some point, you've got to wonder, okay, and he died from lifting weights and crushing his own larynx. Okay, I believe that. Well, moving on. Unfortunately, let's pray for John Ash and his family. Robert Bates, I don't really remember this one that much, but it had to do with, I believe, an airline crash, but he supposedly died. Well, no, he supposedly died overdosed of mouthwash, regarded by local authorities as an obvious homicide. This is back in 1995. So this is in Clinton's heyday, pretty much, when Bill was in office. They don't really give much more to Robert Bates's story. Let's pray for him and his family. Gandhi L. Ball, I believe that's the way they pronounce that, attorney representing Mr. Lassiter in a case concerning alleged financial misconduct. He died in an alleged suicide by jumping out of a window of a multi-story building. Mr. Lassiter was, and I'm not, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not laughing because of that. I'm laughing because it just seems like, statistics tell us that this is kind of outlandish, but it probably does happen. But you know what? Anyway, Mr. Lassiter was a close associate of Governor Clinton. Of course, they all are, and was later indicted on drug-related charges, among other things. Ball's law partner was suicided 1 month later on February 9th, 1994. Wow, so this is another lawyer that was connected to the Clintons in some way, somehow. Wow. Now we get to Admiral Jeremy Burda, Chief of Naval Operations. I remember this, even though it was 1996, but Burda supposedly went home for lunch and decided to shoot himself. Okay, some people do, in the chest twice. Okay, I don't know why he would do that in the chest. Maybe, he had, PSD or something, using two guns rather than be interviewed by Newsweek magazine that afternoon. Explanations for Burda's suicide focused on a claim that he was embarrassed over two Valor pins he was not authorized to wear. Okay. Former CNO, I don't know what CNO means, Admiral Elmo Zumwalt said on May 17th on Larry King Live, the show, that Admiral Burda was not only authorized to wear those medals, obviously, but that he personally authorized him to do so when he was serving as commander of naval forces in Vietnam. When it turned out that Burda was entitled to those decorations, blame shift to stresses over the downsizing of the Navy, and even Washington Times, here we go again, the Washington Times, The adverse effect of feminism, I believe, and having on the Navy's morale. Borda supposedly left 2 suicide notes, conveniently, neither of which was released. I'm sure Clinton's had those redacted, maybe. On June 25th of 1998, Naval Secretary John Dalton's formally acknowledged that Borda had been entitled to wearing the decorations. Okay, this must be leading somewhere, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know where. So, like Brown and like Foster, I guess they're pertaining to Vince Foster, which we'll see in a minute. The proximate cause of the suicide turns out to be fraudulent.